From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They called me Ben. We're joined, as always, with our super producer, Dylan the Tennessee Pal Fagan. Most importantly, you are you. You are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. And with great thanks to our pal, Dylan the Tennessee Pal Fagan, we like to start our weekly listener mail segment with a little bit of a sound cue. Dylan, what do we have rutabaga-wise? Rutabaga. Yes!
Oh my God.
Definitely real. It's always real on listener mail. We keep it real on listener mail.
I played that song for, I don't even know if it was for marching band or orchestra or something in high school. And I specifically remember playing that song over and over and over.
I could see that being a rockin' marching band arrangement. Lots of opportunities for snare cadences, right?
Yeah. It's got some high dramatic stakes lyrically. It's not too objective.
Right? Was it something like that?
And it's cool from a writing perspective. It's cool because, we all have probably heard that you're not supposed to make a request and then end it with comma, no worries if not. So it's a little more powerful to say, or let's forget about it.
Is it or let's or is it or else? I always read it as or else forget about it.
I don't know. I just remember the Santana part.
Yeah. Beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, we are joined with several friends and neighbors, fellow conspiracy realists from across the globe. That's right. We forget sometimes, but we are technically a global show at this point. We're going to talk a little bit about the amazing and quite disturbing correspondence we received regarding our prior authorizations conspiracy episode. We're going to have letters from home. We're going to dive into a story pertaining to one of the weirdest comic strips of yesteryear.
Is it Family Circus?
Oh, even more yesteryear.
Oh, okay.
Yesteryearer.
I always found that one super weird and unsettling. I don't know why.
I like the maps. Did you like the maps? Sometimes they would publish, Family Circus would publish just a one-panel thing, which was a traced map of the kid walking around.
Okay. No, I don't think I saw that.
I think this is a radio play, by the way, or a radio series.
By the way, it's called Billy's Travels. It's a whole series in Family Circus where it's just Billy having adventures following a wiggly line.
Cartography fans unite. And Matt, to your point, I believe the story we're talking about, did begin as a radio show. So we're gonna pay some deference to our roots, but it's much more than that. We're also going to talk about tariffs. Before we do any of that, we're going to take a brief pause for a word from our sponsors, and we're going to hear from a returning guest.
And we're back with today's first piece of listener mail from Reply Guy. I'm just joking. It's Privacy Guy. Privacy Guy. Isn't that right, Ben? That's what he goes by? You guys have corresponded quite a bit.
Yeah, that's the moniker we bestowed upon the Privacy Guy, and we do hope you dig it.
Yeah, he's very, very, very well versed on all things tech when it comes to surveillance, state type stuff, encryption, etc. And he had a really, really excellent response to our discussion about the Signal incident, of course, where high-level members of the Trump administration were found to be using a publicly available app for sending war correspondence or plans that was sort of eavesdropped on by a journalist from The Atlantic. And when I say eavesdropped, I'm using that term very loosely because he was, of course, invited to the chat. Well, that story seems to have taken a backseat to a lot of other shenanigans in the news. I do think it's important to talk a little bit about the idea of what Signal as an app actually is, and a distinction with it and another app that I mentioned called Telegram, which purports to be a very similar app to Signal, but has a lot of dirty laundry and baggage. And our buddy Privacy Guy has a bit of a bone to pick with them and with me. And I'm totally here for it. Good morning, gentlemen. Just finished listening to your strange news segment published March 31st about the Signal incident, and I have a few things I need to say. First off, I do not want to admit to my bias. I like Signal a lot. I do have a fair bit of criticism with them, but it's mostly nitpicky stuff. And again, this is coming from someone who's very well versed in this world, this type of software, very expert level awareness of what's going on in the world of encryption and encryption apps, etc. So just keep that in mind when you're hearing some of these beefs. I think they're a solid service that does great work, and I've gotten all my friends and family using them. So first off, he says Matt said it, but pretty sure it was me because I was talking about how I have used Telegram in the past and how it was my understanding that it was, quote, basically like Signal with the end-to-end encryption. Politely, he says, no. Nothing could be further from the truth. Second bias to admit, I despise Telegram, but I have receipts to back up my grudge. First off, Telegram is not end-to-end encrypted by default, and Privacy Guy, I had heard that after the fact. I remember when the Telegram CEO, a French gentleman, was arrested very publicly, and all this news was being made about him and his role in the way the app functions and some of the maybe less than transparent advertisement and claims made around the app, and also its use as a tool for selling contraband, selling illegal narcotics, etc. And we also pointed out, I believe, in a previous discussion on that matter, how any app available, any communication device has the potential to be used for nefarious purposes, and it is not inherently the fault of the proprietors of said, service, that it is being used that way. If there is communication to be had, people are going to use it for all kinds of things that were maybe not intended by the nature of the app. But to backtrack, Telegram is not end-to-end encrypted by default. You have to manually enable it, which is a complicated process that can only be done on mobile devices. So most users have a false sense of security about the safety of their messages. Not like it matters, because Telegram's encryption is so trash that experts repeatedly warned against using it, and he cites multiple sources for this claim. To their defense, they did eventually upgrade to mProto 2, which I assume is an encryption standard, and I have seen one paper saying looks sound, quote unquote, but A, that was only one paper. I've never seen any other audits or reviews of the cryptography since, and B, even that one paper openly admitted this was a very cursory glance, and we haven't dug in deep. Last but not least, however, Telegram overtly lied to users for years. For years, Telegram's website proudly stated, "To this day, we have shared 0 bytes of user data with any third parties, including governments," after they've actually shared data thousands of times. Now, to be clear, I expect companies to comply with legal orders. Signal has. Proton has. Proton Mail is I believe, an encrypted email service. Maybe they have other wings of that service, but I've always heard of it as being like a kind of a really, really tightly encrypted Gmail alternative. Proton has. Nearly everyone does. I also expect companies not to lie about it and then gaslight their users. Telegram's website has since been updated to say, "To date, we have shared 0 bytes of user messages with any third parties." Tricky, including governments. Regarding Signal and Proton complying, it's also worth noting that they never have anything of value to turn over because of their privacy and security. But that's a very good point as to why Telegram would have those things. It speaks to the misconception that you are pointing out here, Privacy Guy. I wouldn't recommend Telegram to anyone for anything. Between shoddy security and constantly lying to and gaslighting their users, it's got more red flags than a Chinese flag factory. That's funny. Sources for all of these claims. Full disclosure, that's me and my podcast, and yes, I'm being an insufferable One of the sources he cites is his own podcast, where he's apparently being an insufferable But hey, self-awareness is the first step towards recovery, but only because these claims have been verifiable for years, and the Telegram fanboys would still come into our comment section and dig their heels in and argue with us, despite the fact that we would cite our sources. And then a question for Ben. Second, I would want to ask Ben about his claims against Signal. Twice, Ben made the assertion that Signal can be cracked by governments. I know you said something to the effect that what's official and what's true behind closed doors are very different. And I think that's exactly the point, Ben. And I agree, but this claim seems false. However, I respect Ben a lot and is normally very much on point with these sorts of things. Would be worth a quick follow-up, which we will certainly do momentarily. Hopefully none of that came off too aggressive, at least not against you. I'm already on record being hostile towards Telegram, or angry at you, which I'm not, but I hope that cleared up a few things. Last thing, I think this is worth mentioning. P.S. On your recent episode with Denise Chan, you guys recommended one way to avoid scams is to go find the right phone numbers independently rather than trusting the ones provided to you. While this is a great idea, sadly these days it has a couple caveats. First, don't trust the AI summaries. We don't. I swear we covered a story recently about how scammers managed to push a malicious phone number into the AI summary. I was unable to find that story again, but I did find this story about a guy who tried to vet a phone number for Meta with Meta's AI, and it falsely assured him that the phone number was legit. Also, listeners should definitely start using ad blockers, as another common scam is to use malicious ads called malvertising. That's a new one on me, to create fake websites either for phishing login credentials or to trick people with fake phone numbers. Even the FBI now recommends ad blocking as a cybersecurity measure. I personally encourage uBlock Origin. It's available on all browsers, though Chrome has recently severely handicapped it. We were just talking off air about how maybe it's time to check back in with Firefox. That was you, Ben. Yet another reason to stop using Chrome is open source and blocks more than just ads, trackers, and malicious domains as well. Plus, other well-known ad blockers are known to whitelist advertisers for payment. Alternately, you can switch to Brave, which we talked about, which has a built-in ad blocker, but does whitelist ads on their search engine, of course. A lot of good information there, privacy guy. I am getting rid of Telegram immediately. But to the point of Signal having the potential for being cracked, I wonder if we might discuss that a little bit at Privacy Guy's request.
Sure. Yeah. First, Privacy Guy, thank you so much for calling me, quote, normally really smart and knowing my stuff, end quote. And Noel, thank you for calling me on point. This is
I was paraphrasing.
And this is a great thing that you wrote to us about, Privacy Guy, because I responded back. We did need to be more clear on this point in particular, without going too into the Signal seaweeds. I was indeed referring to the rarefied air of state-level malware like Pegasus or Paragon, and to a lesser degree, the good old-fashioned social engineering aspects. And we wanted to make sure we get this out to the world because, it's Noel, I love that you picked this because it's such a great point. Right now, from what we understand, without the deployment of those very sophisticated high-level programs, Signal, even at the federal level, the authorities in the U.S. can get the date and time a user registered, the last date of a user's connection with the service, but they cannot get the actual content of the messages.
Unless you get invited to a chat group.
Which would, be kind of like social engineering.
Well, that's what I was getting to, Ben. And I think to your point, you can crack just about anything through old-fashioned methods. Just by sneaking a peek over someone's shoulder when let's think about that. That is a form of cracking. Again, I know Privacy Guy here is coming at this very much from the point of view of cyber security, of hacking. But we just recently did an episode about Russian sleeper agents. And so many of the techniques deployed with that kind of stuff is just good old-fashioned spying, using your eyes and biding your time and maybe getting someone's password, through analog means. That is absolutely a way. The point being that these types of conversations that we're talking about here should probably be held in a skiff, one of those information isolated spaces that are heavily monitored and that are designed for very specific types of conversation. Doing anything on a publicly available app that is potentially on your phone just feels like a absolute can of worms, you know?
Yeah, tut. It's a bag of unfortunate badgers. There's another point, because we are, as Noel said, paraphrasing you a bit, Privacy Guy, and I am a fan of your show.
What's the name of his show? Can we shout it out?
That is Surveillance Report.
Awesome.
So another point that we were talking about, Privacy Guy, was the idea that I think the public needs to be more aware of. The theoretical capability to deploy things like Pegasus or Paragon is way different from actually using it, because we often forget, and we're saying this in correspondence, we can all see, we can often forget that a lot of state agencies that would be using these programs, they're continually running up against budget constraints, their internal turf wars, and so on. You know, I always imagine our poor NSA intern Steve reading our emails and going, oh my God, you guys, I have to get through 400 more of these before lunch. Do we have it in the budget? I'm a contractor. So we have to understand that it's devilishly easy for our valid, well-earned paranoia and cynicism to at times impede critical thought. Signal does seem pretty secure unless you do some extra special moves.
Well, guys, can we talk about the other thing that was brought up? Ad blockers.
Yes.
So as a human being that experiences the internet and things that have lots of ads in them, yes, ad blockers all day. But it does feel like there's a whole lot of industry online that is built on the fact that human beings will see and hear ads. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it, because I definitely want them and have used them in the past, but also we do kind of need them, and don't we want them to be less horrifying? Because they're like, if you try and look at anything online now, especially a place that supposedly has stories about the news,
sure,
it's the layouts with the ads and what they do. It's terrible.
It's almost like the actual story is a caption in between large blocks of ads.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is off mic. We were talking with Dylan, and I want to thank you, Dylan, for recommending something. We'd love to hear your opinion on, Privacy Guy. The browser LibreWolf, Libre Wolf. This feels like, I don't know, like you're saying, Matt, it's kind of a pickle, because online advertising is sort of the Achilles heel of digital monetization.
Well, yeah, I don't want The Guardian to go away, but they have to sell some ads.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't know. Just don't know how to feel about it. Maybe we should throw to some ads, Noel.
I think we should. Thanks again, Privacy Guy. We'll be back after a quick word from our sponsor with more messages from you.
And we've returned, and we're jumping to the phone lines immediately to hear from someone you might recognize.
The fog rolls in. Subject matter: who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?
Hell yeah.
The shadow knows, for he has seen that same evil in his own black heart.
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
Nailing it.
Oh, and that's all we get.
Chilling.
It's great. It's great. Takes me back to buying cassette tapes at a Cracker Barrel to get those old radio plays.
Oh, nice. Well, I think Viking was listening to a previous episode and heard us mention The Shadow, because that is, in fact, I don't know, would you say the catchphrase, the opening line of ye old 1930s radio program, The Shadow, that you can read about at the Radio Hall of Fame, by the way. It was inducted in 1989. Very, very cool. I want to give you guys another line that maybe, Viking, you could call back in and give us this too. The weed of crime bears bitter fruit.
It sure does.
Crime does not pay.
Tastes gross.
Really, that's the only reason I want to play it, guys, because we mentioned it and I thought it was cool.
It's funny. There's a bit of synchronicity here, Matt, because I was thinking I was going to go on to here's where it gets crazy and resurrect our old conversation about choosing superpowers. Would love to hear everybody's favorite superpowers. And the Shadow does have superpowers without getting too into the lore. I love how he can, what is it? He can sort of aggressively hypnotize people. He can cloud men's minds, with internal shadows. That's
so people can't see him. He's there the whole time. He's right there, but they have no idea.
It'd be great to hear. Like a new adaptation of the Shadow. I know it's a franchise now. There were some recent comic book adaptations, but it'd be great to hear like a world where the Shadow's invisibility or obscuring powers apply to the digital world as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, dude. So shout out to Frank Riddick, who was the original Shadow, and also shout out to Orson Welles, who at 22 years old began playing the Shadow.
No way. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty awesome. Radio history for your ears.
Indeed.
There you go. Check out the Radio Hall of Fame. It's awesome, by the way.
Yes.
So cool. All right, guys, jumping to the next thing that is not what you're expecting, but I'm going to play it very quickly here just for giggles. Here we go.
Stuff that I want you to know. This is stuff that I want you to spend with driving my car to Connecticut for a wedding. I kept saying bumblebee tuna in a very specific manner that made me think that you also enjoyed a certain Jim Carrey movie from the 90s. And the nod, the wink, the nudge, it's all there from this side of the table, if that's where you're going. If not, and you were just enjoying the name, then rock on, brother. But it I don't know. I got Ace Ventura vibes. That's all. Okay, I'm going to go now. Bye.
Nonsense, poopy pants.
Whoa.
Sorry.
We've all come out the wrong
words.
end of a fake hippo. You know what I mean?
That's right. And you must be the Monopoly guy. It's in the bone. It's in the bone. These are all my references from that movie.
This
I
is
say
from the
them
second
all
one?
along. Yes, when
Okay.
nature calls.
Yeah, of course.
I got one. Hippopotamus, right? Like faux. All right.
I think it's actually a rhino, Ben.
Rhino.
Kind of hot in these rhinos.
There you
Okay, we got to workshop it. Is it a rhino?
It is a rhino.
That's what I get from coming out the wrong end of it. You know what I mean?
That's it. You never know
true.
what it was.
They don't really focus on the head too much.
Well, guys, I was going to play a clip of it because it's so great hearing Jim Carrey as Ace Ventura say bumblebee tuna a whole bunch. But the actual phrasing that comes from Fulton Greenwald, which is like the guide basically that is taking Ace Ventura through and meeting the tribes.
Sure.
He says, Bumbaway Atuna. Bumbaway Atuna. And Ace believes it is bumblebee tuna. It's so wonderful.
How do you think Ace Ventura would have vibed with the Sentinelese?
I was thinking that, and I was afraid to even have the thought.
Well, you had
Super
it.
well.
Yeah, I think
Super
so,
well.
too.
Well,
Nothing problematic about that situation.
That movie's aged
Nope.
beautifully, by the way.
Nope. He would say, Bumblebee Tuna, Ace Ventura, pet detective. How are you this afternoon? All righty then. Excuse me. Your balls are showing. Bumblebee Tuna. That is verbatim.
Matt, you know this movie to a shocking degree. I'm just going to say.
Well, I think it was one of those films in that halcyon era where kids of a certain age would go see that and then they would say, okay, so this is my personality now.
Well, that's what funny is.
Yeah.
It made me go, oh, I think whatever this is hilarious.
I really like Jim Carrey. He's electric.
He's great. I have that for the first one. I remember him singing out of his butt.
Yes, they refer to that in the second film. There's a moment when they're in the mansion and they're like, they're looking for Ace Ventura. And the guy says, we don't have names here. We don't have labels here. And he's like, the one who talks out of his butt. And he's like, oh, right this way.
I do also have some good news for you, stuff they want you to sandwich here, in addition to all the great life milestones you have met. Dear Conspiracy Realist, friend and neighbor, Ace Ventura 3 has been in the works for several years.
Shut up.
I can't shut up because I'm telling you the truth. Ace Ventura 3 has been it's in production limbo for a while, but apparently they're still kind of weighing it. It just depends on, how Jim Carrey's feeling.
I just don't know that it blends with the current zeitgeist. I think it's maybe...
But they could take a different direction. Bend the genre a little bit.
Woke Ace Ventura.
No, make it like a True Detective thing.
All right.
Oh my God. Oh, if it was like really gritty and dark.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
And don't recast
That's pretty
Ace.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Ace is the same. We just have, who is the character from the first True Detective that we love?
Rust Cole.
Yes.
Rust Cole and Ace Ventura.
Yeah, that's great.
Also, quick note to get in front of the emails. Yes, folks, we realize there is Ace Ventura Jr., Pet Detective, which is sometimes called the third Ace Ventura, but as purists, as people with respect for the high art of cinema, we're holding out for the Jim Carrey help.
Oh,
Ace Ventura.
yes.
Well, to that point, Son of the Mask, not really truly. You've not heard of Son of the Mask? It's so bad. And not considered
we don't
canon,
count it in the canon.
think.
No, not even in the comics. No.
Amazing. Well, hey, with all of this in mind, let's jump to a rather more serious listener mail. Whew. Getting out of the When Nature Calls vibes. Here we go.
Get your head out of your ass.
By the way, Ace Ventura is the guy who was trying to attain enlightenment when he gets that medallion from one of the monks. It took him like 80 years to get the medallion, and the monk is like, no, just take it and get out of here, please.
Oh,
okay. Let's go to Art Vandelay.
Hey guys, you can call me Art Vandelay. I just listened to the tariff episode as I'm commuting into my supply chain job in the building products industry. Been around since before 2018 when Trump laid the first, heavy hand of tariffs on China. And, in our particular space, not only did it increase the price to import those goods, but also the capability to produce some of those goods did not exist outside of China, where a lot of the innovation hub exists. So several companies started up factories, whether that was in Southeast Asia or even here in the U.S. And it's very difficult to manage when the rhetoric changes, day by day, week by week. But I guess that's job security, right? So one thing I thought I would bring up is here just yesterday, a factory in our industry based here in the U.S., just outside of Atlanta, got raided and suspected of human trafficking. So for all the things that end up in the news, a lot of folks don't believe it's going to be the ones here in the U.S. So, anyways, love the show. Appreciate you guys.
There we go. Whew, okay.
And that's referring to the March 25th raid, maybe?
March 25th, 26th raid. Yeah, that is, I shared just now in the chat a website for wellmadefloors.com. And if you head on over to there, you'll find a website filled with well-made, waterproof premium flooring and vinyl planks and all kinds of dry back planks and bamboo planks. And it just looks like a wonderful website with all kinds of great products that you can put on the bare part of your floor. So now you can walk on it. And this is the thing that Art Vandelay is referring to. This specific company that has this website, their, let's say, factory, their offices, their whatever the place is, it looks like a giant warehouse, to be honest, if you look at it from above or you look at the actual place that got raided. It got raided, on Wednesday, March 26th. And that was the FBI, Homeland Security, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and Bartow County Sheriff's Office. All went in because there were allegations of human and potentially sexual servitude that were being instituted there by human beings that were trafficked from other countries. And it was happening right around the corner from us, guys. Well, we hear a lot of things about Atlanta being bad in this area, right?
Yeah, international hub of trafficking and a national hub due, at least in part, to having the world's busiest airport.
There you go. There you go. Exactly. So let's read a little bit from Fox 5 Atlanta, one of the local folks near us. They wrote on March 26, 2025, the day that this raid occurred, that this was part of a multi-year investigation into labor trafficking, and the company's owner, Zhu Chen, Zhuchen, and his nephew were both arrested and face charges of trafficking persons for labor or sexual servitude. And there are allegations that victims were brought in from other countries and forced to live in inadequate conditions and work for well-made for little pay. There were hundreds of employees at the company, and dozens of them are potential victims. There are stories coming out from people who were interviewed because in a situation like this, the FBI and Homeland Security raid a factory like that, or a distribution center, whatever you want to call it. They raid it, then they separate everybody and they interview everybody separately. And some of those interviews have been leaked, let's say, to the press. One of those, like, we aren't going to say who this person is, but here is their quote. They have talked about small living spaces where 12 human beings were supposed to live in, a townhouse situation, and then being taken by van to this distribution center / factory to work for like 12-hour days, sometimes longer, then shipped back. And the next group of 12 people that is now in the house, they just switch between the housing and the factory. And that's like their life, essentially, for almost no pay. Just a really messed up situation. You can read an official U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement little thing that they put out on April 4th about this, like a PR statement, essentially. They're saying this operation targeted allegations of labor trafficking involving foreign nationals, as well as financial crimes linked to the employer's business practices. So sorry to bring us down there, guys, after all the funness, but just to point out that this kind of thing that we have on this show talked about, in a lot of other places, in other parts of the world. It does happen here in the U.S. It happens in whatever country you are in right now. It is just a thing we need to tackle and deal with, and it is not something that can just get stamped out. This is a multi-year investigation that had to go into, potentially freeing some people from some form of servitude.
Yeah, and this, unfortunately, can be politicized or can be used as rationale for increasing erosions of rights and rule of law. But to that point just made, it is mission critical to realize that human trafficking is a thing, and it's not always the thing you might see in films like Taken. It can be much more regional. It is occurring in all 50 U.S. states to one degree or another.
Well, yeah, and we've been talking about ICE and all the terrible crap they've been getting up to lately, right? I mean, horrifying stuff. But it's also an organization that can go through and do this and actually do some good, even though ICE they aren't the ones actually doing the investigation. That's the local Atlanta FBI office, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and the Bartow Sheriffs, and as well as Homeland Security, or HSI. But still, thinking about things as more complicated, things are always more complicated than whatever story or news is given you, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's one of the things we always talk about on this show. So even something like ICE can function for good in the way USDA is often vilified, right? It can function for good. It just depends on who's running it, what the rules are. Well, mostly who's running it, right? Like who is making the rules and enforcing the rules that are internally enforced, in my opinion, at least.
So say we all, I would imagine. And I love the point, because you're right. We continually return to it. The hard truth about reality is it takes more than 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes on afternoon news to explain a situation. All those stories you hear, think of them like opening a door for you or knocking on a door for you. And we've been saying this a lot, and I don't want to say, you know what? I don't care if I sound like a broken record. It's extremely dangerous to paint with a broad brush with most things. So thank you so much for bringing this story to bear, Art Vandelay and Matt. I think we're going to see more of these situations, and it's going to be increasingly politicized, at least over the near term.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. All right, and with that, we'll take a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back with more messages from you.
And we have returned. This is, guys, here's the way I'm thinking of this. We treat this last part of our weekly segment as more of a story sharing thing, because you'll recall we did an episode quite recently on a third-party insurance industry entity called Evicore, or as its many critics call it, Evicore. Do we remember that episode?
How could we forget? Evicore. It really leaves an impression.
It sure does. Yeah. And I'd agree with that. I think we all walked away somewhat righteously indignant, if not a bit depressed by the state of the situation. And it turns out a lot of us in the audience felt the same way. So we're going to share just a couple of stories from our fellow listeners, some of whom experienced the hazards of prior authorization, some of whom worked in the industry in one way or another, and also witnessed this Leviathan in action. So first, let's go to somebody going with a fantastic name. Are you ready? We're not ready. It's Paint Chip Nachos.
Oof.
That just paints a picture.
Gives you some real umami.
So Paint Chip Nacho says, hello there. Thanks for all you do. I'm writing today to give you a little story about my experience with prior authorizations through insurance. I have EDS, which is a rare soft tissue disorder which causes pain and fatigue, among other things, on a daily basis, meaning this is a chronic condition. Editorializing a bit here. Paint Chip Nachos continues and says, I'm on SSDI for my disabilities, as I have many comorbidities associated with all of this. My doctors put in referrals left and right to multiple other doctors. Some of these referrals get denied with the excuse that, quote, the patient must discuss a proper medical plan with their doctor before approval, end quote. So some of my doctors wrote in appeals for me, as well as myself explaining that my doctor has already wrote out a plan, and that's why I need the referral. Bit of a catch-22 for Paint Chip Nachos. One of my denials was for trigger points injections in my muscles to ease my pain and headaches, which they wrote in as medically necessary. My insurance came back with a denial saying they needed a peer review, which meant my doctor, who's already super busy, has to call my insurance and talk to someone there in their medical department. When my doctor called, and she did call twice, no one from my insurance answered the phone, and they sent a denial due to my doctor not properly calling for that peer review. I finally got a series of 3 procedures approved, even though I need a series of 6 for my pain to dissipate, from a 6 to probably a 2 to 3 on the pain scale. And Paint Chip Nachos, check out our earlier work on the Sackler family to figure out just how fraught the idea of the pain scale is. Nachos, you continue. I always wonder why I even pay for insurance if I'll be not denied medically necessary procedures. I have so many doctors that insurance is necessary, but man, oh man. I've also changed insurance companies. However, this new insurance company doesn't need any prior authorizations. It'll possibly deny any procedures after I get them if my doctors don't specifically note that my procedures are medically necessary. So this leaves me in the dark until my bill comes in. And then this goes on a little bit, but the thesis statement here from Paint Chip Nachos is that prior authorizations mean nothing, and insurance just wants to keep you sick no matter what the cost. And then followed up with some very, very kind words. Dare we say keen-winded words? That's for you, Paint Chip Nachos. I wanted to pause here before we go to the next one. Guys, does this experience seem like something that might be common to a lot of our listeners, or perhaps to you in your personal lives?
I've never experienced it before, but I can definitely imagine just by, other news stories that have come out where this very thing is described.
Same. Yeah. Not something that I've run across.
Well, I'm glad to hear something you guys have not personally experienced, and hopefully that remains true in the future. We'll go to our next one, Papa Lee. Papa Lee, you say, greetings and salutations. I just finished listening to your episode on the prior authorizations conspiracy. As a mental health care provider, I'm very much tied to insurance companies. I have also been doing this long enough to remember when the providers just sent the bill to the insurance company and they paid it. Dun, 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 and the patient only had to deal with a copay. I also remember when they tried to cap sessions and tried to make us verify every session. There's a bit of malicious compliance with that one. If you want to hear about it, we do. Please write to us. And this is where Papa Lee gives us a pretty cool question. Are there any nonprofit insurance companies? If so, how do they operate in the current landscape? And that's a question for the group, because if you folks in the US, if you take your internet browser of choice and you look for just nonprofit insurance companies, what you're going to find are a lot of traditional for-profit insurance companies who have special programs for nonprofit companies. So it's already a little bit muddy.
Yeah, I've never actually looked for nonprofit insurance.
It seems somewhat paradoxical.
It seems counterintuitive, yeah, for sure. Especially in our, I mean, it seems like it would be cool if that's whatever that looks
great.
like. Yeah. How does that even function?
What is that?
How does that work? You know what I mean?
Who benefits?
Isn't that funny though? Like, have you guys seen the new season of Black Mirror, by the way?
Yes,
not yet.
Watch the whole thing.
I haven't seen the whole thing, but I've seen the first 3. And the first episode, which is quite dark, it's called Common People. It really is about the healthcare system. Ooh. And, you know, I've seen actually a podcast I listened to called The Weekly Planet with these lovely Australian fellows. They didn't get why that episode hit so close to home for so many people, or rather, let me rephrase that. They did exercise empathy and look at why it might hit close. And the reason is, in Australia, they don't have the same kind of show of a medical, system that we have. So the issues that are demonstrated, that are shown in this episode, Common People, about just, crippling medical debt, the idea of subscription models, more or less, for your own healthcare. Dystopian native advertising, all of that thing, but specifically that subscription model to just keep yourself or your loved ones alive is something that is very real and feels very close to home here as American citizens. What you're talking about here, us not being able to wrap our heads around the idea of insurance that is intended to benefit individuals rather than for, massive profits exclusively, is something that we have a hard time wrapping our head around here as well.
It's one of the, that's why I love your question so much, Papa Lee. It's one of the biggest differences, or one of the biggest unique aspects of the United States amid all the developed countries existing in the world. And it's a dangerous thing. It's a shame that it's been so tribalized and politicized, and commodified, modified, all the other words that are bad that end in IED. We'll do one more. We'll go to Pharma Nurse. Pharma Nurse says, you can call me Pharma Nurse. I just listened to your Evicore episode, that's how Pharma Nurse spells it, and felt compelled to add to the story. The insurance company and Evicores of this country have far too much say in the healthcare we receive. Here is my real-life example. I work for a pharmaceutical company that has the only FDA-approved treatment for a rare disease. This treatment doesn't just make the patient marginally better. This is a life-saving treatment that allows them to lead a completely normal life. Needless to say, this is a very expensive drug. To your point, Noel, that's another thing that sounds crazy outside of the U.S., but makes sense in this current milieu. Pharma Nurse continues, frequently the insurance company, Evicore, will tell the doctor that they cannot use our FDA-approved drug, but instead must first try another treatment that is not even FDA-approved for this particular diagnosis. So now, says Pharma Nurse, these companies are not only saying the doctor is wrong for prescribing this medication, but they are also saying the FDA doesn't know what they're talking about. Needless to say, this topic makes me very hot under the collar. Our healthcare system needs a major overhaul. We spend more per patient than any other country, but our health outcomes are the same or worse than all other countries. Evicore may be trying to lower our healthcare spending, but they are not doing anything to improve the patient's health.
Hear, hear.
Preach.
Huzzah. No, not huzzah. Whatever the opposite of huzzah is.
Nuzzah.
Yeah, sure. Love it. It's just not cool. Sorry, guys.
It's very much not cool, and that's because it's very much true. These are just a few of the letters we've received regarding our prior authorization episode. Please check it out if your afternoon is going too well and you need some bad news. What hits me about this, guys, and fellow conspiracy realists, all of us playing along at home, is that everybody seems to be roughly on the same page. Everybody who is not a shareholder or a board member is saying, yes, the system is broken. The disagreements are only on what the solutions could be.
I got some solutions for you.
All right, let's hear the top three.
No, I can't say them out loud.
Say up. Goodbye.
I can't. I'm not allowed to.
All right.
What if we each do one? I'll do one. Having big boy grown up healthcare system.
That's a good one.
That's
a good one.
How about a kick in the nuts?
Okay, and kicking in the nuts. That's number two. Good.
How about sovereign wealth fund?
Great. I love it. A little SWF. Right.
I pose a question to myself. Who exactly is deserving of said kick in the nuts? Kind of hard to pin down.
Yeah, I was picturing it like a metaphorical or meta level.
Thank you, Ben. Precisely.
Capital N nuts.
Yes.
We could even do like an acronym, right? National United Tough Speech. No. There's a better one out there. I'm just freestyling. National United.
Adam Smith.
What?
That would be like NADS.
Oh, no, I'm just
National-
sorry. I'm thinking about who to kick in the nuts.
There you go. Okay.
First off, in defense of Adam Smith, by the way, he uses the phrase invisible hand very rarely in his work. And people just ran with that.
Question, y'all. What if there were a vigilante out there instead of killing healthcare CEOs, just kicking them in the nuts?
I like it.
Or
Nutman.
that's really good. But what if instead they're going through and waking up the CEOs of all the healthcare corporations and, quietly influencing them to let them finally understand how horrifying all of this is?
I like that. I like, let's add to the superpowered dossier, because I think, wouldn't it also be more psychologically troubling if instead of just, sometimes people get kicked in the nuts, but other times he's just doing the thing where he sneaks into the house and then he wakes the person up and he gently touches their balls and says, "This is your first warning."
No.
You know what I mean?
Or just shows himself outside the window so he doesn't have to actually break in. But the person inside knows. There's a kick in the nuts right outside my window.
I like the personal horror. That's such violation. You wake up and someone, ooh, no, yeah. I mean, that's breaking several laws.
That's very Barry.
It is. It is very much. Yeah, it's very much. We're going to end with a quick palate cleanser, some letters from home. This is our part where, we try not to end on too much terrible news. So we just give some input from our fellow listeners who had a nice thing to say or a little recommendation. So our first one is from our trusty Minnesota officer who says, "I'm not Australian, but you did ask for Australian movies. This is a cheesy children's 1980s movie filled with a great mystery adventure that still holds up. My kids loved it when they were younger. It is called The Quest. It came out in 1986. So if you're looking for something to watch, trusty Minnesota officer recommends The Quest. Send us more Australia cinema recommendations. Our last word today is from our
that
buddy,
one, by the way, the subtitle of that movie is The Frog Dreaming or Frog Dreaming. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to our episode on the dreaming that we did with Annie Reese, I believe.
Annie Reese, yes. Yeah. In her time down under. We also have an upcoming listener mail segment on prophetic dreams, and we have an upcoming episode on weird dream experiences. So watch the quest before then. We will too. Last thing, shout out to Lynx, a conspiracy realist who wrote to us and asked for help with a school assignment. Thank you so much, Lynx. We love this kind of stuff, and feel free to send your school assignment requests to us as well. We are not going to chat GPT your homework, but we always are happy to provide input. And we hope you want to provide input too. So we're going to call it a night. We're going to go noctivigate. We're going to work on this fantastic vigilante idea. And in the meantime, we want to hear from you. Find us online. Call us on the phone. Send us a good old-fashioned email.
That's right. You can find us at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook with our Facebook group. Here's where it gets crazy. On X, FKA, Twitter, and on YouTube, where we have video content galore for your enjoyment. On Instagram and TikTok, on the other hand, we're Conspiracy Stuff Show.
We have a phone number. It is 1-833-STDWYTK. You should be able to call us, reach us at any time. Doesn't matter what time it is where you are. Doesn't matter what country you're in. Use the old VoIP. You can get through. We have had many a call from Australia and the UK and other EU countries. Please do call us. When you call in, give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. If you'd like to reach out to us electronically in a different way, why not send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
the entities that read each piece of correspondence we receive. As our pal Gary Oldman liked to say, I've crossed oceans of time to find you. That's a quote from Dracula, played by Gary Oldman. Let us know some of your favorite film quotes. Pitch us weird ideas for vigilantes. You can reach us 24 hours an evening, 7 nights a week. All you have to do is be well aware yet unafraid. Sometimes the void writes back.
Ben, what we need for the healthcare system is the shadow.
Agree. Some sort of vigilante. Speaking of, check out our 2-part series on Luigi Mangione and tell us your thoughts. Join us out here in the dark. Conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.